Here we are.
All right.
Here
Where
we
are we?
are. Welcome, Katie.
Thanks, Kurt.
Let's just keep it going. Let's just
All
keep the
right.
conversation happening, and people will slowly start to show up. Well, what were
Yeah.
you saying? Self love is the most sought
No.
after.
You were saying that you had certain videos and you were confused by certain videos on your YouTube were getting a lot more traction than others.
Hmm.
And I was just looking at them, and one that you recently posted, Six Planets in Retrograde, How to Navigate with Patience, Presence, and Self Love.
Hmm.
And I was saying self love is, I think in general, that's what most people are seeking. So I wonder if it was key word like patience, presence, self love, you know?
Yeah, it definitely has a lot to do with keywords and the title and stuff like that, and those AI robots like letting you through and pushing your
Yeah.
stuff. It seems.
Yeah. But also self love, like
Yeah,
that's so important.
totally. Hi, everybody.
Mm. Hi,
We got
everybody.
we got three of you out there right now live. More is gonna come. More are gonna come. Um, Thanks for coming, and then thank you to anyone who's also watching this as it's recorded and keeps playing on the YouTube channel as well as Facebook here. I am with my lovely wife, Katie Gray. She's joining us again. She helps
Mm.
so much with so many things, as
Oh,
well as just bouncing off ideas and bouncing off anything that has to do with the sacred, anything that has to do with the realness. For me, that's what showing up right now is all about. It's what I want to talk about today. It's about connection. It's about finding ways to reconnect with something that is authentic and real, especially in this day and age, which I don't know. What do you think, Katie? It seems to me like it's more intense now than it has been in history, but yet then again, it's probably always been crazy and intense in some way. It's just magnified via
yeah.
technology.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. I think it is more intense now than it used to be. But I think that has a lot to do with, honestly, frequency and our relationship with the earth.
Hmm.
Because I think that human dynamics, there's different facets of where anxiety can derive from and what pulls us away from that sense of connection with one another and ourselves and the divine and the earth and our spiritual mm, connection. But I think that, like, if I try to imagine living 1,000 years ago, would it be intense? Yeah, it would be intense. There would be anxious. I would probably be anxious depending on where I was living and what time of the year it was and
Right.
what food we had harvested, and there would be stress, like that survival stress. That's something that's not new. But when I think back to 1,000 years ago, walking out by myself, going for a walk into the woods, like there wouldn't be planes going by and
Hmm.
cars and drones and cell phone towers and all of this satellite emission. It would be much more quiet. And so I think that there are different variations of where that intensity is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and a game that Katie and I often play is, okay, what era, if you could go back in
Yeah.
time, like what era would you go to? And then we try to imagine, like, what would the air smell like? What would the
Yeah.
food taste like? Just these different time periods. Because now, it just seems like everything is so fast, right? So fast food, just the consumption, especially with social media, the consumption level that's happening now has just like gone off the charts to where we almost can't even keep up. And now it's become an addiction, the consumption,
Yeah.
which is something that I think we constantly chase. And I feel like it's a real, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend I've been a bit disturbed by it lately, and I'm not even like pushing it on other people. I'm just, and looking at it in myself as well, just like playing a part like in the world and in the roles that we play, and I'm really searching within my own spirit, my own sense of sacredness, my own self, of like, okay, how can I change that? How can I reconnect not only with myself but with the planet and with spirit? Because I think what you touched on it a minute ago was, it's our spiritual health. We're obsessed with like physical health. We're obsessed with,
Mhm.
all of the other bodies, mental health and emotional health, but the spiritual health, I think, is where we really find connection.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I always just think of the natural world. Like, right now I'm looking out my office window and there are 5 butterflies. I can see 5, 6 different butterflies on this beautiful flowering tree. And there are bees, and there's the tree. It's just so beautiful. And let me see if I can, I don't know, I've got a lot of cables here. I was going to try to turn my
Try.
computer so you guys can see.
But
But
your point
my
being, that's
point
one way
is,
to connect, is to
well,
see
yes,
the butterflies and see them.
yeah, and connection. I mean, connection is a pretty vague word. I mean, it's an umbrella word. I think connection it symbolizes many intricate, variations of communication, honestly. And just to even stop and be aware of the butterflies and be gifted by their presence, to feel moved and to feel
Right.
lifted and warmed by this experience, it requires me to be present. And I think that's where we're losing connection, is because we're losing presence, because we're so distracted. All of that buzz and commotion and the cacophony of sounds, I think it's pulling us out of presence, which is putting us in that stress, that fears is ushering us over towards unconsciousness, and we're not as present and clear and able to connect with the spiritual force of the natural world.
Right.
And that's what I think is hard. I think that's where it ties together, of just the impact of our this day and age, and how that impacts each individual's relationship to presence, to being able to connect with a higher force, with the tree, with the bees that are buzzing around it, with the animals, with one another,
Right.
with ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and just finding the gratefulness in that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
gratefulness to be able
Yeah.
to witness that, the gratefulness to breathe clean air, the gratefulness that the bees are still here. I find that I keep going back. I find that it doesn't seem in my observations to be a priority anymore for many people, because we're obsessed with the survival. We're obsessed with whatever it is that we're doing out there, or we're comparing ourselves through like an Instagram post or whatever, or, so we're caught in this shallow cycle in a way. I don't know. Forgive me. I'm not trying to sound negative. This is just real
No.
stuff that I've been thinking about lately. And before we continue on,
Yeah.
I want to put out there to please ask us any questions. Anybody that's watching out there, if you have any questions, we can talk about anything, whatever the sacred, ideas for connecting more to spiritual self, or emotional stuff, whatever it is, or we can talk about astrology, because I love to do that, or anything. So please, if you have any questions, leave a comment,
Or maybe I could ask you some questions, Kurt.
or we could do that. Let's do it.
Yeah. Maybe I'll interview you. It'd be nice to find out more, the inner landscape of
Of me.
what. Yeah. Well, maybe like we can just start with, speaking of the sacred and connection and distraction and everything was just mentioned. Why are you here in this moment with the camera going and the microphone? Like, why are you here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think for me, it's I I think this is reflected, in my life when back in the early days of my music career, for example. I just really wanted. I'm finding a way to show up. I'm finding a way to at least offer something. It's like we were talking about earlier, that feels authentic and real and tangible. A connection space. I look around and I just, there's a sadness that I see, and there's a sadness that I see within me that I think boils back to that connection or that lack thereof. And I just see so much potential in us humans, and like where we could go, and how we could be, and like how we could be working together. Yet I see so much division and so much fear, which seeps into my own being in a way. And so I think I'm showing up here, perhaps just to inspire, to help people remember, to
Mhm.
to open a conversation that brings in spirit. And like I've mentioned before, I think in the past I've tried to hide it or disguise it in a way
Mhm.
through art or through music or whatever it might be. And now I don't want to do that anymore. I don't need to hide anything. I really rather just want to show up authentically and just talk about this.
Mhm. Do you, beautiful. Do you, lately you've been, well, lately, not as much in the recent weeks and months, but over the past couple of years, maybe the last year, you've been dealing with a lot of anxiety.
Mm.
And I think anxiety is something to talk about. It's not something to feel ashamed of or to feel like there's something wrong or I don't have my shit together or I'm not as emotionally strong as others or whatever it is, I'm afraid, I feel vulnerable if I show that I'm afraid. But anxiety is fear.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to talk about, especially you being, a middle-aged male who has his you have yourself put together. You have a nice home, you're married, you have a beautiful life, you're healthy, and yet you are dealing with anxiety like much of the world is dealing with anxiety, and less so now. But I was thinking maybe you could talk about that, how that relates to what you've already been sharing and what you've learned about your anxiety and how to work with it and transmute it, or whatever you've learned to share.
Yeah. It's very confusing in many ways, like you're saying. Like I look at my life, so many blessings, so many incredible things to be grateful of and for, and I am so grateful for that. Yet there's this underlying unsettling feeling that I cannot quite understand or figure out, which, I mean, anxiety is definitely a word for it. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I'm like, have I done enough? Am I living my purpose? Am I really showing up in a way that I'm supposed to be? Am I actually on my path? I look at the world, and I look at, all the things we've been talking about now, and I feel the sense of despair. I look at, like, we were talking yesterday about chemicals being pumped into clouds to make it rain, insects that are now like disappearing, the animal life, the oceans. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I don't know if you guys heard the fireworks here, but here in Mexico, they're celebrating the independence. So there's gonna be a lot of fireworks, but they're emphasizing my point here in a
Yeah,
way. Like,
exactly.
it's brought up a lot of anxiety in me, and I wish I had an answer, Katie, of like how I'm healing it. I mean, I'm working with my breath, I'm working with calming myself, and it really does dip into to fear. And then you go down into the fear of, like, what is the fear? Like, what are you afraid of? And I ask myself, like, what's going on, Kurt? Like, what is the fear there? And I guess there's a fear of, I've always felt like, oh, we're on a mission. We're going to save the planet. Perhaps it's idealistic as a kid. I don't know. There's an overall sense of, did I fail? Like,
Oh,
are
yeah.
we failing as a human race, which breaks my heart, and we can't fail, because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're just a piece of dust in the cosmos. It's so huge and it's so massive, yet there's a deep love that I have for this planet, and there's a deep love that I have for the for nature and and I'm trying to figure it out. It makes me want to. It makes me tear up.
Well, that's it. That's what I
Because
want to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to figure it out.
Well, I think it's
I
okay
didn't expect to start crying on my live feed here, but it's
okay to cry. It's good to cry. But that was something we've been talking about lately, is the relationship. Like, I mean, I'm curious if you guys want to mention, whoever's tuned in, you guys can mention, do you also deal with anxiety? And the reality is many people are, but what I'm really fascinated by is when anxiety stems from grief. When, I was describing it to someone the other day, it's like a balloon, like a water balloon, and there's just so much filling up the balloon, so much feeling and experiences and sadness, and reality is just like, oh, it's just so much, and so this water balloon's filling, and the surface, the material is it's under pressure, that it's holding so much pressure. And to me, that's the frequency of anxiety, is to be the fabric that's holding so much, and when we talk about chemicals being sprayed into the clouds to make it rain, and when we talk about what's happening to the insect population, all of these many insects are going extinct, and the birds rely on the insects, and et cetera, it's all connected, the destruction. And just to sit with that is so sad. It's just pure grief. And yet I think so many of us are uncomfortable being with discomfort. We're really trying everything to be comfortable, and the anxiety is uncomfortable, so we're trying to get comfortable and take a pill and talk to our doctor and do something, just try to get comfortable again, when I think there's a necessary opportunity. It's an opportunity to connect with the grief that's filling that balloon within us, and cry, just cry, like, write about it, talk about it, connect with the grief. You're talking so much about connection, and it's just so sad. And I think that to in a holistic way, to strengthen our relationship with our emotional body, and to work with our anxiety, to lessen it, and to get more clear on what we can be a part of in being a part of a solution. To me, it's all resting on the importance of building a relationship with grief, like each individual allowing themselves to strengthen their relationship with grief itself, and to cry rather than getting angry or distracted, or moving further into addiction and grabbing a cigarette so you don't have to think about all of that sad and scary stuff happening in the world. It's painful, and it's sad, and it's scary. Just letting ourselves feel, honestly, like.
And I think you're right. I think that's probably the doorway to that connection, because when we feel the fear, when we feel the pain, and when we try to stop that instead, we just create a shell, right? Which stops us from like actually connecting to the beauty of it. I mean, you look at all, like, even like ancient, tying it back into the sacred, you look at like ancient religions, you look at all of it, there's an element of sadness to it. There's an element of grieving, of the pain of the world, the suffering of the planet. Yet as a society, we fear that. We fear the pain. We fear the suffering. And I get it. Like you and I, Katie, we're like, I mean, I'm terrified about Dove getting older. and
Hmm.
our dog,
Hmm.
and her one day dying, and the pain we're going to feel about that. But the thing is, we can't avoid that.
Right.
Like we definitely
Right.
have to lean into it, and our family and everybody, just life has that element to it. But I think we do have to go into the grief of it to let it flow, and then that opens the heart, right? Because
It does.
I think we close the heart when we don't want to feel it, which disconnects us right away. And it's almost like
Yeah.
society wants you to close the heart. Society wants you to
Yeah.
and it provides you with all sorts of band-aid, you know, materials to not open that heart and to not
Yeah.
look at it. So keep on drinking, keep on watching Netflix, keep on um, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
instead of like connecting with something that's real.
Yeah. And I mean, that's it right there, because you're saying earlier, you were saying strengthening the spiritual body, like we talk about working out and strengthening the mind so you don't get memory loss, and et cetera, et cetera. And as you get older, strengthening your muscles because there's less muscle growth. But to me, that emotional, like strengthen the emotional body, like allow yourself the emotion and the spirit, to me, they're really interwoven. And
Hmm.
the emotions are interesting because they're connected to the physical body and the mental body and the spiritual body. It's kind of like
Right. It's
this
all connected.
Venus system that connects all of that trilogy. But if we can strengthen the immune system of our emotional body by allowing it to come in contact with the bacteria that it needs to in order to strengthen, just like a physical immune system,
Right.
like coming in contact with grief, coming in contact with feeling, a full spectrum of feeling, so that your emotional immune system can get really strong. And that strengthens your ability to remain present, which allows you to listen to the tree and the butterflies. And, I'm just calling on them
Totally.
because I'm seeing them right now. But,
Totally.
and there your needs are being met because you're experiencing connection, because you've allowed
Open
yourself
the
to
heart.
overcome the fear that's holding you back from feeling. You've moved through that fear and learned that you're stronger. And in the process, I was gonna look because I wanted to get the exact details here. This is actually a reference from my new book.
Oh, there we go.
Crying improves your mood, improves your vision, strengthens your ability to communicate, kills bacteria, and releases toxins from your body.
Amazing.
So that's what crying does. And yet we
Right.
won't allow ourselves to cry because we've been sculpted and trained to not feel, to stay distracted, to make money. Boys don't cry, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I was going to say, especially us men,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
we do not cry. We're taught at a very young age, like you just said, boys don't cry, suck it up.
Yeah.
No, you just hold it. And I get it. We need to be strong. I understand that. But there's a sense of weakness that has been planted in us with crying, right? When
Fear.
really, yeah, when really the weakness is not allowing ourselves to cry. The weakness is not allowing ourselves to open that heart. Like it's actually takes strength to go in there
Encourage.
and courage to go in there and allow that to happen. You know?
And that's the whole that's it all tied together. That if we're dealing with anxiety, so let's tie this all together. Can I tie it together and then go to some of these comments? Because we have a beloved group of friends who are sharing
100%.
their words.
Let's bring in the community. Let's connect.
But okay, so let's just to tie in what we said to get us to this place where we're going to shift over and start welcoming other voices.
Hmm.
Connection is something we all need, yet connection is something that we lack. We often feel alone and sad, removed from the world, from the natural world, from one another. We feel a constant state of anxiety and concern. The anxiety, sometimes we have trouble tethering that to what the source is, but we often think there's something wrong with us. We're not strong enough to handle the world. We're not emotionally savvy like others that somehow can just feel normal while we feel anxious. And yet, if we allowed ourselves to step into our power enough to move through that wall that's been built by society and culture to not feel, to not look at the truth, to not allow ourselves to be porous and sensitive. If we allow ourselves to be strong enough to move through that, then we're able to touch in on where that anxiety is stemming from, which is sadness and fear, pain. But if we give ourselves permission to feel our true feelings and then allow ourselves to express them, we balance our nervous system. We allow ourselves to feel soothed and calmed. And we also build confidence in our ability to do so, to be alive, to navigate emotions. And we realize we are strong enough and we're not living in a constant state of fear and avoidance anymore. And through doing that, allows us to be more present, where we can be more engaged with the natural world, the very world that we may be grieving the loss of.
Right.
So
Beautiful.
So the moral of the story is, find the courage to feel and cry.
And in doing so, you open that heart.
And you open your heart and you're able to be present and be more of a present leader to help preserve and protect the natural world.
Beautiful.
Should we go back here? Okay, so
yeah, let's bring in some people.
Okay. Anu Bliss, that's such a nice name for Emmanuel. Love and blessings. Crystal Bauman, your mother-in-law. Hi. Oh, Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Oh, good. Oh, goats. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Gretchen sending some Orcus love.
Yeah.
So I want to read one here. This is Wondernanda. The onset of menopause has really been driving home all these questions around whether I have failed or lived up to my purpose, or how much time I still have to grasp what seizing my life means. Oh, that makes my eyes water. That's so powerful. Wow, I'm so curious, the onset of menopause, how much that has, as a woman, you know, I would say societally, like your value being directly connected to your fertility, your sex appeal, and your ability to be striking and beautiful.
The world pushes that, like the
world,
you know, like that's what you're saying, right?
The fertility being your strong point and your value, but also, have I lived up to my purpose, or how much time I still have to grasp what seizing life means, which to me says the reality of death approaching. You know, it's like menopause. It's our organs are starting to complete their mission, you know, and at some point all the organs are going to complete the mission, and then the body will have completed the mission. And it's that deep question, did my spirit complete the mission? Because my body can only last for so long. I feel the grief around that, you know, about aging and that anxiety building and the concern, have I done enough?
Yeah, I can relate to that, you know, and that's what I was talking about earlier too, you know. And I think too, what I'm hearing in this and what I intuitively feel is letting go of what the world is pushing on you, of your value is in your fertility, or your value is in your sex appeal, and being like, actually now we're moving into more of a spiritual essence. Now, like seizing what life means now is entering a new phase, and being a mentor and being a light for those that are now coming up, you know, as we do age and as we do get older. That's to me, I think, an important place to step into, you know, mentorship, holding the light, being a guide, you know.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Kurt, you know, and Wondernanda. I have Bisu who's really threatening to step on my computer right now.
Cats and flies.
Wondernanda, you know, what this brings up for me as well is, you know, that same, like, I see it as a fierce, like, precision, focus, and courage, and power and strength that we have to activate in order to reclaim our permission to feel, our permission to cry, especially as men, as Kurt was saying. But we have to lead the pathway as rebellious, courageous leaders to reclaim sensitivity in this world. And something else I find that we may need to reclaim with that same courage and strength is elderhood, is reclaiming the sacred essence and value of being an elder in this world. Because as it is now, you know, the older you get, if you're not fertile anymore, if your breasts aren't springing forward, and if you're not able to have babies, and you're not, you know, your skin's not tight, and you don't have all dark, if you have any gray hair, you're not valuable, and you're not the worth, as if you were, you know, a value, a monetary value, you've become worth very little, and you almost become invisible. And that is so messed up and so wrong. And it's up to each of us to transform that narrative and reawaken the respect and reverence for the elders in ourselves, especially. But saying, okay, now I'm opening, as I enter into menopause, I'm opening a whole new chapter, a whole new era of my life. And this world needs wise elders, and I will be that. I'm not going to swallow the pill of dyeing my hair for the rest of my life and trying to look young and grasp onto something that I don't have and that I'm being told is valuable. And I'm going to age with grace, and I'm going to reclaim that, because our world, this tribe needs elders. You know?
Yeah, I heard an interview with, I think it was Stephen Jenkinson, who said the world has more old people than there's ever been before on the planet. There's more old people, but very few elders. You know, and that really struck a chord with me, because elderhood is different from being old. You know, it doesn't mean you're invaluable. Elderhood is embracing that and offering the value of guidance for those to come. Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that forward.
McKinley is saying, I have found that writing is my flow state. Agreed. And the days that I write are the days that anxiety fades away. I totally agree with that too. Do either of you have a practice that brings you to a flow state? I too, McKinley, go to writing. It's almost like this calling within of like, I just need to write. This is something I learned from The Artist's Way, doing the morning pages, which is an incredible book. If none of you have read that, or if you're looking for a way to open into flow state, that book I highly recommend. And she talks about doing where you just write, even if you don't know what to say, you just let yourself flow and let yourself write. But what are some other ways to get into flow state?
I have one. For me, the flow state, oddly and uniquely, it's in the middle of the night. And I don't know how many of you wake up in the night, like around 2 or 3 a.m. I've done that for a long time. It might be 11:30, it might be 3 a.m. But I often wake up, and granted, our beloved dog Dove is getting older, so she needs to go to the bathroom throughout the night. So Kurt and I are up throughout the night, letting her outside. But I naturally do that, where I wake up. And I used to resist it. I used to think, oh, I need to go back to bed. Why am I awake? But for, I would say, probably, I don't know, 10 years, 8 years, around the time I started really getting into lucid dreaming, I started recognizing that the middle of the night, most people are sleeping in wherever I'm living in this part of the world. And everything's quiet and still. There are no emails coming in. My phone's off. All the animals are sleeping. They don't need anything of me. And I wake in the night, and I lay there, and I could go anywhere. I could feel anything. I could experience. I could learn anything. And in fact, as Kurt knows, that's where much of my book came from. It was like a portal was opening in the middle of the night, and I would lean over and just write information, insights that were coming through me, because it was the flow state was automatically turning on in the middle of the night. And rather than resisting it and judging it and pushing it away and asking it to close so that I could decide when the flow state should open, I just said, it's happening. Like, I go into flow state in the middle of the night. And I honestly think that is one thing that keeps me so grounded and balanced, is my willingness to go there with spirit when spirit comes through. And Kurt is a very, very patient partner because I'll often wake up first thing in the morning and I'll be like, oh my gosh, oh, I have to tell you where I went last night. Oh my God, I had the most crazy download. And he'll lay there patiently listening to all of this information and all the places I went and the experiences with the flow state. It just flows through and you just jump on board and you don't wake up tired because you can go into a meditative state, relax your body and just explore, you know?
Right. Beautiful.
So I
So
think
what?
that's the middle of the night.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. So what Katie's saying is be present in the middle of the night. Again, it has to do with writing. It's like waking up and allowing yourself not to go back into that heavy sleep, but instead go into the flow state for a second there. And I think too, writing is associated with creative expression, artistic expression. So anything that brings you to a sense of, tapping in and creatively expressing yourself through painting or through music or through writing or anything like that can bring you into a flow state. Once we step out of our own way, that brings us into an opportunity to like express something, which actually relates to another question. If that's okay, Katie, can I move on to another?
Yeah, I just wanted to swing. I just want to give awareness to Lisa Seehoff for talking about grief. If you guys have
Grief.
access to these comments, I really recommend checking out the wisdom here. Deep awareness as I continue to notice the changes around me. Thank you, Lisa. Isn't as powerful. That's so right. And Victoria sharing some Brene Brown.
Yeah.
Emmanuel saying, I have zero issues crying my heart out for good reason, like heartbreak. When it turns into sniveling, I move on.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Go for another question. I just wanted to give acknowledgement to all the folks who are chiming in.
Well, this one connects to what we were just saying about creative expression. This is Aurelia Waldron is asking about Gemini North Node, and so I do have thoughts on a Gemini North Node because the North Node in astrology talks about different areas of our lives that might take a little more work in order to evolve ourselves, or a little more effort in life to keep pushing forward and growing. That's what the North Node represents. So it being in Gemini is going to relate to the mind, to the intellect. So my thoughts, excuse me, my thoughts or insights on a Gemini North Node would have to do with tapping in to your intellect, using your mind in a way that pushes you to grow and pushes you to evolve, which is connected to what we were just saying with writing and flow state, because Gemini also has to do with communication. It has to do with expressing yourself. So there may be somewhere in your life, Aurelia, where it's hard for you to potentially put your words together, or it's hard for you to express yourself in certain ways. And so my thoughts about this would be doing exercises that strengthen your capacity to creatively express yourself through words, through the mind, through the intellect. So those are my thoughts on a Gemini North Node.
Nice, Kurt. It's so helpful. Astrology is so incredible.
Astrology is amazing, you guys. It's amazing.
Will you highlight love?
Yes, which one? She's got he
I'm
or she
going
has a couple on.
Amazonia, Peru. I'm going to Amazonia, Peru in the beginning of October. I'm 43 years and I'm dealing with lots of social anxiety for so long, traumas and fears that keep me close inside the house. Wish me luck. Man, I relate to that. When you really tune into your nervous system and you're like, wow, I feel the best when I'm at home. It really has to do with our nervous system. And it's so good, love, that you're connecting that with trauma, that you're recognizing that that different traumas have created an atmosphere of fear and maybe distrust inside of you. What I would recommend or suggest is you're leaving in the beginning of October. I would suggest really bringing your awareness to the home within your heart, because you're a spirit that's temporarily housed in this human body. And, at some point you're going to transcend out of your human body. So every home in a sense is temporary. And what your physical home is providing you is safety, relaxation, warmth, comfort. And I think it's really important to bring your awareness to feeling that within your body, within your being, and to recognize I am safe, I am held. That safety that my house, the walls of my house provide for me, I can feel that right here in this moment. Wherever I go, I am home. And one day, as you may, if you're going to do any plant medicine in Peru, then I imagine the veil will get thin, and you'll have opportunity to explore that more, to tune into what the essence of home is, and that your spirit is home regardless of where you are. That takes confidence, but I have a feeling you're about to experience something really profound and powerful, and that you don't need to be afraid. Your home is here. It's in your heart. Wherever you go, you're home. And nurture that, tune into that, feel that. It's almost as if you're an altar and you can just pray in the presence of yourself and bring that warm light with you,
Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. This is so wonderful, everyone. Just keeping the real conversation happening. I love that. Thank you so much.
Raven, do you want to look at Ravens here? Okay.
100% relate to the struggle. We are the riders of the storm and have to constantly course correct ourselves from slipping into negative reactions to all the injustices we're exposed to. I try to remember baby steps to do personal wellness, and remember to breathe and focus on the things I can influence in a loving way. The grocery is my new church, beautiful, and a place of practicing the humanity we are all part of, regardless of all the divisive social conjugations. Beautiful, Raven. Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful,
Raven. You're right. Sometimes we don't have to think so globally and get overwhelmed with like what seems out of our reach. Our work is right here with our neighbors. Our work is right here at the grocery store. Our work is like right here in our communities. And so that's it. And remembering to come back to breath, come back to the center, come back to now.
Yeah, Raven, I think you've just offered the wisdom we needed. I don't know that we have wisdom to respond with. I think you've just said it. I love the grocery is my new church. Like that should be a slogan that's on a bumper sticker. Like,
right.
Honestly, like I hear what you're saying, and that is the post office is church. Like the grocery store is church. Walking down the street is church. It's just the look in the eyes. It's the way we show up in each moment. Allow that to be sacred.
Right.
In honor of Sacred Sunday, just allow every day to be the sacred Monday, sacred Tuesday, sacred Wednesday,
Right.
Love that. Thank you, Raven.
Totally. Victoria talks about waking up in the middle of the night too, and then she decided to quit resisting at one point because it was torture otherwise, which is so true. There comes a point where you have to just let go. We learned the other day in the tarot course that we're doing, in the devil card, you laugh. You have to find the humor in it at some point. You have to release it in some way. And then you see the magic in it. Then you realize that it is offering. It's one thing. My sister actually mentioned the anxiety, if anything, offers you an opportunity to learn how to breathe, to learn how to center yourself and actually be present, to learn how to grow beyond it and make you stronger. It's not easy, but it's definitely there to help you.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. Let's see. Emmanuel says, I've experienced women going through menopause express regret that they let the emphasis on their high sexual value throughout youth distract them from pursuing spiritual relevance until too late. Yeah, I've heard people mention something similar. And I think that in response to that, it's never too late. Because chances are death is going to be the most spiritual experience any of us have ever had. Like it's going to be the most profound, eye-opening, exhilarating spiritual experience. Just what mind-blowing to die. And what's so beautiful is that our spirituality is here with us always. Our awareness of it is is what may be slow, but we can become aware at any moment, and it'll be the right moment, because I do believe that we all have so much to learn, so many experiences to go through and endure. And when we turn inward towards spiritual awareness and self-awareness and realization, it's we wake up,
Yeah.
and we don't have to worry that we're doing it well enough or strong enough or waking up enough in reference to spirituality, because again, at some point we will wake up when we die and
Right, but we
recognize
don't
that.
have to wait until that moment,
No.
and nor is it like too late when things like menopause or various things happen in our
Yeah.
lives. I understand what, it's like when we look back in our lives and we're like, man, did I just waste my entire youth? What's the term? Youth is wasted on the young. Unfortunately, it's an interesting concept because when we're young, we don't realize the gifts that we have. We don't realize. And then oftentimes we're lost in the body. We're lost in, sexuality. We're lost in the world, as opposed to seeing beneath the surface into our spiritual selves, which comes, now as we get older. But maybe that's just the natural progression of things, or as life unfolds. But what Emmanuel is saying, which he says in his next comment here, is it's not too late. There's still a lesson in all of this, and you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait.
But also just to not feel regret no matter where you're at. Sometimes don't wait. There can be that can contribute to anxiety. Don't wait. Go now. Do your spiritual practice now. And I use the word God or the divine. Like, I just feel there's infinite patience from the divine. Like you're held always, no matter when you're ready to turn inward. It's always the right time, and you're always held.
Truth.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for tuning in and sharing your comments and questions.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Kurt, since it's back to us now.
Mm-hmm.
When did you, let's just say, turn inward? Like when did you find yourself on a spiritual path? What were the encouraging occurrences that prompted you to want to look inward and look beyond the facade of reality and explore what's deeper?
I mean, various points in my life personally. For some reason, I've always been interested in spirituality. I've always been interested in God and prayer and just connecting, even as a small child. I don't know why. Perhaps it's my own astrological makeup or what it might be, or perhaps I just always found a connection, to the divine, to nature in some way. Gratefully, I grew up in nature. I think that's part of it, growing up in the woods, growing up around animals, growing up, feeling the natural world around me. So it was always a part of who I am. I always wanted to express that, as well as help others find that. But then there was a point in life, when you're young, you're taught, oh, it's through religion, it's taught through Jesus and this and that. And as I always say, don't get me wrong, I love the teachings of Jesus. I love aspects of the Bible. There's amazing wisdom in there. It's been distorted through time, through like misunderstanding, through humans, but there's still wisdom in there. But as I got older, straight up, through plant medicines, that's like where I honestly, the veil, as you were saying, thinned for me, and a feeling of connection again into my spiritual self became way more prominent. And I felt very drawn to put that in my music, very drawn to put that in how I relate to others in the world. Yet now I'm on a new octave of it as I get older, as my, as one of our friends calls it, menopause, as we men get older to a certain age shifts as well. And I think that's why I'm more showing up in this way here, doing my YouTube channel more with my astrology and who knows what else, but yeah. I
Do
feel
you?
like
Yeah.
connecting to spirit is really, really important, and it's a real essential ingredient right now to move us forward and beyond of where we're at.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm curious. Let's see. Well, I know a lot of these answers, but I think it's just beautiful for you to share and speak about it.
Mhm.
Because you're 49, and in a number of months you'll turn 50. But
Mhm.
you first started working with plant medicine, psychedelics in your teens, right?
Mhm.
Is that
Yep.
right? What age? It was 17, 16?
Yeah, probably 17. Mom, dad,
Yeah.
if you're out there listening to this, it's about 17, yeah. 16, 17.
Hans is here with us right now. So we have
Yeah.
Kurt's dad is here. He's in his little house. Um, well, but because I wonder, because psychedelics are something that in a sense, I'm curious if it feels like we don't want to talk about them because they've been misunderstood, like
They've
astrology
been
and
yeah,
tarot,
they've been misunderstood for sure.
you
Yeah.
know. But the reality is, when I met you, we're about to celebrate 15 years together. And I had explored a little bit with psychedelics before meeting you, but it was really your relationship, the way you held space as a facilitator, and working with you and the plant medicine that helped me get closer to my spiritual path, to survival. I was so addicted and so lost and unraveled, and to me it's an example of you having chosen to be on a spiritual path and strengthened your spiritual immune system, so that when I came and I was all sick, mentally sick and physically sick and emotionally sick, it helped tether me to spiritual strength. And that's how we can help one another, by doing that internal work,
Right.
and I think it's also remarkable. I think a lot of people psychedelics are starting to, they're starting to be more widely accepted and spoken of, and
Mhm.
integrated into our culture, in a respectful way. And yet you've been working with plant medicine since you were 17,
Yeah,
you know?
something like that, and it was never a party for me, I know some people, they love to go to parties and, you know, take whatever plants, but for me, it was never like that. It was always drawn to go be with the trees, or quite honestly, go into the grief and, like, release
Mhm,
that, or whatever it
mhm,
was. It was always a sense of medicine for me, and
mhm,
really opening to spirit. I forget what book I read as a kid, but this woman, what was it? But she talked about, if anything, psychedelics, they allow you to see that everything's alive around you, that everything
mhm,
has a spirit, that everything is living and breathing, and that you're a part of that, and you're not separate from it. Which I think is one of the big issues in the world today, is this, where people feel like they're separate from everything. This is how we're destroying the trees. It's how we're, like, polluting the oceans, et cetera, et cetera. We don't feel that we're doing that to ourselves. And if psychedelics and plant medicines open us up and remind us that we are connected to this, and I'm not trying to promote anybody to go abuse any plants or anything like that. It's like, it's more just with reverence, with intention, you can use those medicines.
yeah. Sorry, BC just completely squished himself behind the computer, and I almost shut it. I'm listening respectfully to what you're saying and
Yeah.
managing him. Well, that kind of brings us full circle. Hold on, we've got a plane going over. Oh, helicopter, hold on. Um, that brings us full circle to what we were saying. I think, in that sense, that the awareness of the plants, and the plants can help bring us to a place of presence, you know? And through being present, we can be more aware of the life force of the natural world. And And that can help remind us of the importance of devoting ourselves to be a part of a solution, to help care for it, to connect with it, and strengthen our entire species' ability to connect. You
Right.
know? So I think the connection we seek in general, just anxiety decreases when we spend time with the natural world.
Truly.
We experience connection. We don't feel so alone, so
Yeah.
lost.
Which is another thing that brings us into flow state as well.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right. That's
being in
exactly right.
nature.
I
Yeah.
feel like we should do another talk in the coming weeks just on talk more about psychedelics and spiritual practice, and
Sure.
because I do feel that you have a lot of wisdom, more than many people know. If that was 17, you're 49, 32 years you've been working with plants,
Yeah.
and that's profound. That is you having been on a spiritual path for a very long time, and you have a lot of wisdom, again, that a lot of people don't realize. Kurt, I know this is your show, but I wanted to just go ahead and guide our listeners into, I want to just, you've been working so steadily, and I know you've been working so hard on creating offerings that can bring people to a sacred space and experience connection and learn.
Yeah.
And let's see, today is the 17th, and then you're launching the astrology course on the 21st.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but you were saying yesterday, I was asking you yesterday, you said the 21st is when the information goes out, but then what was the...
Well, the 21st. It's going to be the 21st of September to the 21st of December. So a 12-week course going through all of the basics of astrology. Learning, it's a language, right? So it's like learning the alphabet of the language first, and then how to weave the sentences together to create the paragraphs and the pages in the novel of someone's life. Astrology is an incredible tool in that way. And so the course, yes, so on the 21st, I'll send out the first week's material, and then we're going to meet every Monday night. We're going to meet much like this live and discuss the material, and then any questions that people might have as it unfolds. Yeah, so it'll be for 12 weeks. And so if anyone out there is interested in upping their astrology game, please join the course. And if finances are an issue, just talk to me about it. We will definitely work something out.
Yeah, I think it's really unique because having been with you for 15 years and you having, from the get-go, me having the opportunity to work with you as a facilitator, I know how special you are as a facilitator, how non-intrusive and humble and intelligent, but mindful to encourage people to listen to their intuition. And I sense it's going to be really powerful. I have a whole handful of friends who are all signed up, and starting to get a little FOMO, wondering if I should sign up too. But I think that's something definitely I can vouch for that. It's going to be so transformative. It won't just be learning astrology. It's going to be so powerful.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm excited about it, and this is like the first voyage into it. And we're going to record the videos as well. So if anybody can't make it for some reason for the live questions and answers and stuff, you can always check in on it. Anybody wants to find out more, you just go to my website down here that just popped up and join the course. Let's do this together. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. What McKinley wants to know what time of day it's going to be offered.
Well, it's going to be in the evening. So currently it's going to be on Monday evenings after the tarot course that I'm doing, or the tarot meetup that I'm doing. So it'll be in the evening around 7:30, I believe is what I said.
Okay.
Pacific, that is. And so McKinley, it looks like you said you'd be in Italy. It'd probably hard for you to tune in live until you get back, unless you're there the whole time. But there are a couple of other people in Europe as well that I mentioned to them. Perhaps we can find another time that works for people over in Europe that we can also meet up. And so it's something that we can explore. So yeah, definitely don't let that hold you back from it, because it'll increase your knowledge, obviously with astrology, but it will also, McKinley, and for anyone out there interested in tarot, the two are interwoven. It'll up your game on reading tarot and understanding that as well.
Which is, I don't think a lot of people know that. That's something unique that you offer is you weave those two together, the tarot and the astrology.
Yeah, well,
Similar languages.
they work together. And after I do this astrology course, I'm going to do another tarot course. This time delving into the archetypes of the major arcana, much like we're doing right now. And I can't tell you enough how it is altering.
Yeah.
It will alter
Profound.
your being and understanding of yourself and the world around you going through it. And so it's a really beautiful offering.
Is that Wonder Nanda was curious? Is that going to be in January because you're going to be offering another course?
Yeah, I'm going to do that in January, because right now we're almost through the major arcana for this particular journey. It's going to be another 4 weeks, then we're done with that one, because I'm going to do a card a week, because it's a lot to ingest. It's a lot to sit with and work with that archetype. And so that course goes a bit longer. We go through the 22 major arcana, and then but yeah, I'm excited to do that. So it'll be after this course, which ends December 21st. We'll probably let the holidays do their thing, and and then when people get back in the new year, let's do the tarot course, because it's so transformative.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, Katie, that's what I want. This is in my way of like showing up and offering these things that can help people expand, can help people open and connect again, connect, to the greater picture, but it also changes you in a way that helps you connect in your day-to-day, in your community, home.
And also it's just being together, having some morning tea and just having real conversation. It just is so refreshing. There's so much stuff that we're being bombarded with. It's really good to come back and have real connection.
Totally. Yeah, it's crazy times, it's crazy time. Just a quick story, for me, one of the excuse me, one of the opening moments was a time where you and I, a few years ago, we were on a beautiful beach, turquoise blue water, white sand, golden sunshine, coconuts, palm trees, just gorgeous, mystical place. And I looked down the beach, and every single person was on their cell phone. Every single person is looking at this screen, just diving into this other world, when the magic is surrounding them. And then the people that weren't just reading on their cell phone, they were taking a selfie, right, with this image behind them, so they could get back on their cell phone and like share it. And it was an aha moment for me of something is not right. Like there's a sickness here, that we're not well. And I want to show up and find a way to just I'm not saying I use my phone every day, I do it too, yet we have to balance it out with like real connection. We have to balance it out with like presence. This is like full circle of what we talked about here. And so my point that I'm getting to here is things like astrology and things like tarot are doorways. They're ancient doorways to help us stay connected with the movements and the cycles of nature, and the way that creation unfolds from nothingness to full manifest world here.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
That's it.
Emmanuel says we should co-teach offerings too, which would be amazing.
What's interesting, Emmanuel, is just last night we had a really beautiful evening, and we were stretching, had our yoga mats out, and we were just talking and stretching with all the animals. We were laying around us, and we were talking about the different archetypes found in tarot, and relating them to what's happening in the world, and that this is another language. It's just the empowered heart method, which is using different archetypal forces to understand trauma, which is one that I channeled. This is like the empowered heart it's similar, And so Kurt and I were just talking, wouldn't it be interesting to understand how this body of work, understanding the cycles of the the human journey into the darkness and back to the light, of human suffering, of the hero's journey, how that interacts with astrology and tarot, and to really lay the maps out together and understand how they are
Yeah.
interwoven. I think there's a lot of space to explore.
Yeah, you tapped into the sacred language that's been around since the beginning, I think, and you put it in such a beautiful way. For those of you who don't know, this is
Yeah.
Katie's book.
Well,
Well, this
this
is
one
the
just
one.
came out.
Yeah,
Actually,
so,
it's not out yet. It just got printed, so it's
right,
not out yet.
right. So this is the guidebook from her Journey of the Empowered Heart, which is a methodology that she channeled in. This is what she
Mhm.
was up in the middle of the night in the flow
Exactly.
state, like bringing through something wanting to desperately come through, and probably bringing anxiety if she wasn't working on it. And so these things also come up with like spirit saying this needs to come out into the world. So I have her website up here right now. Go to katiegray.com and you can find out all about the book, as well as the subscription offering that she has, as well as like you can get trained in becoming a facilitator, and it's life changing. I see it daily. So there's more information on that.
Yeah. Thanks, Kurt. It's
Yeah.
all so mysterious. We're uncovering the mysteries.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Yeah. Thank
everyone
you guys.
for
Yeah.
tuning
Thank
in.
you.
Have an amazing week. Thanks for coming at least for this hour, and finding your own sense of sacredness, or whatever it is. I hope you got something beautiful out of our conversation, and that resonates with you and carries forward, brings you a sense of connection.
Connection. Hope it eases your anxiety and
Yeah.
allows you to feel more settled and grounded, more permission to be settled and grounded, and to be courageous and be rebellious. Like, be present, like
Right?
be a
Be
rebel,
rebellious.
be
That's rebellious
present,
these days.
like
Presence.
be present, just go outside, like turn off your phone, be rebellious, like close the computer and go hang out with nature and give yourself permission to be fully present there
Yeah.
and watch what happens, feel what happens to your nervous system. Like, got to be discerning in this day and age, filter, like understand what's important for you to absorb and what is toxic,
Totally.
and set some boundaries. Yeah, thank you guys. Dankeschön, Crystal says. Danke, Crystal.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
guys. Yeah,
Appreciate it. And
yeah,
we're here. Any questions or whatever, reach out to us, please.
yeah, for sure.
Send you so much love.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, Katie.